This was Hong Kong in 2019.
Some estimate that at their peak, 1 to 2 million Hong Kongers turned up to protest in a city of about 7 million people.
Where are they now? For years, Hong Kong showed how capitalism and Western values could coexist with China's wide-ranging economic reform. Now, the protesters are gone. What happened? And what does that mean for the city's future?
5 hours from now, the Union flag will be lowered and the flag of China will fly over Hong Kong.
When Hong Kong was handed back to China after more than 150 years of British colonial rule, Beijing promised a high degree of autonomy in its economic and political systems for 50 years. The city cemented its status as an international financial hub and one of the world's freest economies, bolstered by its rule of law, a free internet and press, and a currency pegged to the US dollar. It was the world's gateway to China's extraordinary industrial boom. But at the same time, tension had been simmering between Beijing and Hong Kong's political opposition, which wanted to expand civil liberties. Beijing continued to resist allowing Hong Kongers the right to choose their own leaders. And then, in 2019, Hong Kong proposed a bill to allow people to be extradited to mainland China to be tried.
And that triggered concerns that Beijing could use this legislation to clamp down on political dissent in Hong Kong.
Although protests began peacefully, the government's unwillingness to completely withdraw the bill caused demonstrations to escalate.
The demands from protesters morphed from just trying to prevent this bill from going through to demanding amnesty for protesters that had been arrested and calls for universal suffrage.
The movement continued through 2020, until
the government decided to roll out very strict pandemic control measures that essentially made it impossible to gather in large groups.
Within months, Beijing imposed a sweeping national security law, which punishes what Chinese authorities describe as secession, subversion, terrorism, and collusion with foreign and external forces. It also asserts broad powers to control sources of opposition.
Authorities then began to arrest people that they alleged were instrumental in the protests. And they also made it essentially impossible for Hong Kong's opposition parties to continue operating.
That also led to the shutdown of several pro-democracy outlets, including Jimmy Lai's newspaper, Apple Daily. It was just too much for some.
Since I left Hong Kong, I witnessed my friends from my industry, including theater actors, visual artists, got arrested or got charged. I felt really scared, and I felt this place is trying to expel its own people.
Jarita and her husband left Hong Kong in 2019 and now live and work in the UK. Some of her students are among the more than 140,000 Hong Kongers who emigrated to the UK after it rolled out a special visa scheme in 2021. Meanwhile, Beijing revamped the body that picks members of Hong Kong's Legislative Council to make sure only pro-China candidates can secure a seat.
Effectively, that meant that Hong Kong's government no longer had an opposition.
And in March this year, Hong Kong introduced its own security legislation. New crimes like treason and insurrection carry life sentences.
The threat to national security is real. So it is important we all bear that in mind, to be on guard all the time.